I may bring them out. I may bring the chats out. That'll be good. We're live. It's 8:06, so I'm like an hour late. How that happens. So tonight we want to talk about, to start off with, we want to talk about the thumbnail that I have up, and it shows a pretty good example of where some of the clearancing is necessary when we do stroker motors. I can't remember on this block. This was something way back that the guys from Coast High Performance did. Some photos that I had of their stuff. I'm thinking that this was a 351. Could also maybe be a 302, like a 347 stroker. It's either a 347 or it is a 408. I'm leaning toward the 408. And if you guys will zoom in on the photo, and if you can do that, look closely and see that the area around the area around where the oil pump bolts to the block, you can see there's been some clearancing there. Sometimes that counterweight comes up and will hit stuff in that area. And also, not unusual, and this is the thing about stroker clearances, is the the areas that you have to clearance are the areas that hit. So that's why mock-up is necessary. Don't try to put something together without checking that. Mock stuff up, and unfortunately, in some cases, you have to mock everything up. I'll give you an example. So we did this was a Dart 302 block. I think it was a 363 or something that we were running, and we went to put link bar lifters in it. We were running a hydraulic roller, but it was I can't remember if it was a hydraulic roller or a solid roller, because we did run a solid roller in there also. But we put link bar lifters in it, and I put all the link bar lifters in, and then the last set that I put in are rubbing on the China wall. So the motor was already assembled. It was already a short block. So then what you have to do is go and grind. I couldn't grind. There wasn't enough material to grind on on the link bar lifter itself. It was basically the bar. There wasn't really room to grind that. So I had to grind the block. So I had to grind the block with the thing assembled. And that's not a good idea. I mean, we can take precaution, and what I do when I'm grinding that kind of stuff is we cover everything naturally. And then I have a vacuum, and while we're grinding in the area, like you put that stuff in there, okay, it's hitting right there. I take a Sharpie or mark it, because there wasn't any oil in there right then. Mark where it's going to hit and where I think it's going to hit. Sometimes you don't know where else it's going to hit until you can get it in a little further. But mark where it's going to hit, and then give yourself some extra room. Cover everything up, and then I have a vacuum while I'm grinding, and then you have the vacuum cleaner right next to it, so it sucks all the material up, almost all the material. And so then you can wipe everything out and get it clean. And I usually don't have any problems with debris getting in there if we do that. Because sometimes we have to work on stuff on the dyno, and that's the way to do it. If we have to drill something out, retap it or whatever, that's normally the way that I do it, and that works pretty well. When we're doing clearancing on the bottom end of these, normally all of that's done. You do a mock-up and you go, oh, it's going to hit here. Because some of the rods, and this is what's going on here at the bottom of the cylinder, is when you rotate the motor, the rod hits. It might hit on the top side of the rod or the bottom side. Sometimes it's the rod bolt. Something hits there. And so and it's not usually by very much. You can see the clearancing, and it's not extensive, and it's at the bottom of the bore. So it's not even an area where there's no sealing happening anywhere. It's not really a critical part, but obviously it's better to do the clearancing, and then do all the cleanup. And then if you do all the clearancing, then the block goes in and gets washed for its final time before assembly. That's obviously a better situation. So when you're doing these things, and a lot of these guys that sell stroker motors, they do this as a matter of course. These guys have put so many together, like the guys at Coast had done so many, and these other facilities that sell complete stroker motors or short blocks or those kinds of things, they sell those. They know where it hits, because after you've done your 100th 351 stroker with this rod and this bolt and everything, because that stuff matters. The rod that you pick, sometimes the shoulder of the rod is not as long or wide, however you want to do it. The bolts, the ARP bolts or whatever bolts you're using, could be not as thick or long, or the heads could be not as big. Sometimes you have to grind on the rod too. Hello, hey Bruno. All of that is stuff that you have to look at, and you do that during the initial mock-up. And like I said, on the lifters, on the hydraulic or solid lifters that we were doing with the link bars, I didn't know until I put the last one in. And so you have to do that with your assembly too. Just put all the bearings on, put all the rods on. You don't have to torque them, but just tighten them all down so everything's in its proper place. It doesn't matter that you have load on the rod bolt. As long as it's tight and they're snug together, then all that's fine. Hello, baby. Hello. I know. Mommy will be home pretty soon. She will. They'll be home in a minute. And so then you rotate all that, make sure it fits. And the other thing, like on the Ford, is you got to put the oil pump on too, because the oil pump is another thing that can hit. So you'd hate to put the rods and pistons in, and after cleaning up, do your clearancing, clean the block, put oil in everything, lubricate all the walls, all the bearings, all that stuff. Put your crank rod and piston and rings and all this. You've gapped your rings. You've done all that stuff. Put that in, and then you go to assemble it, and you're like, oh, okay, now I put my pump. Oh, now the oil pump is in it, or the windage tray or something else. The windage tray usually you can clearance with other stuff where you don't have to do any grinding, but the oil pump might need grinding on the block. And so you don't want to find that out after you've already assembled it. Hey, no. Lay down. You're okay. We're not going out. Not until after I'm done. Okay. So you can lay down and guard me or whatever you need. Okay. Go lay down. Good boy. Hello. I know you're a good boy. I know. I need to bring treats up here, huh? Then you could come up and you could have some snacks and then lay down. Oh, that would be good. Oh, I'll do that next time from now on. Okay, I'll bring a little bag up here. Okay, lay down. You're okay. I know. Where's your brother at? Where's Brady at? Where's Brady? Go get Brady. Go get him. Go get Brady. So make sure that you do all that, and then put the assembly together. And then when you do that and you're finally ready to put it together, that's what engine building is. Like assembling the thing, that's only kind of the final step, and that's not that hard. But making sure everything is going to work and all the measurements are correct, that you have the right bearing clearances, you have the right ring gap, all that stuff is just all that stuff is way more important. Then yes, you can put the bearings in, set a crank in on. That's all really easy stuff. That's why I consider myself an engine assembler and not a builder. And I made that very, very clear when I was doing Engine Masters, because a lot of these guys were, professional engine builders. They build race motors and stuff. And I'm like, look, I'm not that. I'm a guy who has lots of dyno testing experience and can put together a pretty good combination that makes power, because I've done lots and lots of them and tested lots of stuff, and I can figure out what I think is going to make it work. And if I don't know, I have lots of friends in the industry that can help me, choose things. So, and luckily I had lots of things to try and compare and see. I had airflow research heads, and we could try those, and trick flow stuff and all that. And, if we're doing LS stuff, I got stuff from Brian and all that's good stuff. So make sure that when you're doing stroker stuff that you check all the clearances, make sure it's all going to work. And then the other thing, like on some of the Chevy stuff, on some of the small block Chevy stuff, sometimes the rods or the rod bolts hit the camshaft. And so you got to spin it up that direction. So you have to put the cam in, time it right, put the timing gear on there, dot to dot, make sure all that's right, and put it in, and then go, oh, hey, look, this rod bolt's hitting the camshaft. So we're going to have to address, you're not going to take some off of a cam. So you're going to have to take some off of the rod bolt and make sure that works. And then you're going to have to, if you can't get in there and measure it, which that area is pretty tight in there to get it measured, you'd have to do the Harry surveyor eyeball there and go, oh yeah, that's about 30,000s or 100,000s or 50,000s. Hopefully it's not 2 or 3,000s. But it's enough that while it's running, it's not going to be a problem. Because that's the thing. It has to be enough. You don't want it to just, after it really revs up to hit just a little bit. It's only hitting just a little bit. You don't want that to happen. So make sure that you do all that. What I really wanted to talk about, I wanted you guys to let me know if you guys have heard anything. I want some conspiracy theories. I'd like some automotive related ones. We don't need like people are controlling weather and eating dogs and cats in Springfield or whatever. what I want are automotive ones. Have you guys heard any like good automotive conspiracy theories? Like I had one guy tell me that that I don't do any dyno testing, that I'm just a guy that sits behind the computer, and that I just get all of this information from the internet and then put together videos. I'm like, wow, how much easier of a life that would be. That would be fantastic. But let me know. Let me know if you guys have heard any good conspiracy theories about stuff that goes on. Like, is anybody in control of that? Or, you know, I just want to hear some good stuff. If you guys have any. Richard's a reptile people. Richard definitely is a reptile person. He definitely digs his reptiles. That's good points for that. Let's see. Start a poll. Okay, have you ever clearanced a block or crank or rod on a stroker assembly? Have you ever done that yourself? Have you ever done any clearancing? Any self-clearancing? Eric, Brian, Jacob, what's up? Puppies, yes, we have puppies. Are awesome. Yeah, they're so much better than people. Get away, what's going on? Michael? Why building 7? Is that what are we building 7 of? The dogs looked at me like I was cheating on them when the dog barked. I know. Our dogs do that too. They love seeing the other dog. I mean, they love looking out the window, and because it, you know, and people walk by, it's like, oh, that's so cute. The 2 puppies are like looking out the window. They're sitting up there with their elbows on the ledge. They're looking out the big window, but they love looking out at squirrels that are playing or cats or anything that's walking by. But they love watching it on TV too. They like watching wolves and dogs and, you know, anything on there that they can see. It's pretty cool. Rich, how may I contact you and possibly purchase a supercharger? Are you looking for an M90? Honestly, rather than pay for shipping on an M90, it'd be cheaper for you just to go get an M90 from a wrecking yard, because those are the only ones that I would have. They're just the 3800 M90s. Trek Norris torque cam for 4.8 LS. It depends on what you're trying to do with it. A torque cam works pretty well. If you take a look, I have videos up on the Trek Norris on a 4.8. We did that, and it does like what it does on a 5.3. It's a little bit higher of an RPM cam on a 4.8, but a torque cam is going to be a pretty sizable step down in power compared to the Trek Norris cam. And if you're looking for that kind of cam, I have a low buck truck camshaft that does what that Trek Norris does. It's just a lot less money. It's only $179. Richard, so much easier to just offset grind the crank for a 1890 Honda rod journal. Okay, the small rods will clear everything, and then you have a lightweight, strong rod. Yeah, but then you also have to offset grind the crank. And a lot of people won't do that. If somebody else already makes a crank that's done like that, and it's part of a stroker kit, because you're not talking about that, in my opinion, is a like race modification. That's something that we do for engine masters or something like that. But that's not a common thing for guys selling stroker kits. But you're right. It could help with clearance. It will self-clearance, yeah. I've been keeping up with Eric's cam challenge. I know about it, that it's happening, but I haven't seen any results or anything. The chicken tax, although it's more of a reality than theory. What? Explain to me, Michael, what the chicken tax is, because I'm not that hip. You can narrow roller cam lobes or offset the lifter bores. Example, 4 1/4 stroke with a stock GM 6-inch, 2-inch crank pin rods. Okay. No, all of that stuff is, you can do wild stuff, certainly, but that's beyond the realm of the 95% of the people that would be doing stroker stuff. Doing a custom ground narrow lobe camshaft and offset lifter bores is like It's like $1 million worth of machining. Ford copied the Coyote off the Nissan GTR V6. Uh-oh. Oh, that's one of the conspiracy theories. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think some of it, that brings to mind the common ones. That's that. This will get people stirred up. That's that Chevy copied Ford to make the LS because somehow a V8 that that has a cross bolted block. I mean, it's completely different, but not completely different, but similar bore centers. They're not exactly the same, but similar bore centers. But that's been going around for a long time. In fact, I had a guy, I went on some live feed with a group of guys, and this guy got like all at it. Not only was he convinced that that's the case, well, where do you stand on this? I said, well, first of all, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, you do. I'm like, no, I don't. What are you talking about? He goes, well, GM copied Ford. I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He said that the LS is a copy of the Windsor. And then I listed off a couple of differences. I said, well, it's not an exact copy, obviously. Oh, you're just one of those guys that, I'm part of the Pentaveret or whatever, the LS Pentaveret or whatever side I'm on. I didn't even really get his meaning, but he was very adamant. He was very upset because we were all doing the picture in a picture thing with a live chat deal. And he was very adamant. It's a guy I had never met before, but he was convinced that I was part of a conspiracy theory, which is kind of awesome. You can take a 400 Chevy crank, offset grind it to 3,950, get a 427 cubic inch, and have no interference problems at all. Okay, that's a lot of crank work, but yeah, lots of stuff is possible. Have you ever put together an Eagle 408 small block Mopar? I don't think I have. Putting it together today, the crankshaft is very close, but there is room. I was wondering how much clearance do I need? Close to what, Drag Van? Where is it getting close to? Your mods are so cool that GM stole it. Yeah. Do you possibly have a Pro Charger or a Torque Storm laying around for a 4.8? I do not. Kia Hyundai markets to poor people, obviously, but the engine... But they purposely make the engines bad to keep their customers poor. Brule had both a Kia and a Hyundai. I don't know if I would. He's a movie star. I don't know that I would say that he's poor. Ford Windsor blocks up to 427 with the right parts may not need clearancing. I don't think I'd ever put that much stroke in a stock Windsor block with the sleeve length. These are all good ones, though. I like them. The government is why Chevy has DOD and Chrysler has MDS. Cafe standards. What about 016 oil? How can that be beneficial for anything other than fuel economy? On the Mopar, paperclip clearance should work. Between what and what are you clearancing, though? Never built stroker, so I answered no. Offset ground stock cranks were more popular before aftermarket cranks. Yeah, I remember them doing that. Coast High Performance did a bunch of those. They did the what did they do? They did the 302 piston or the 302, not a rod. They did some combination of stuff that was like nearly factory stuff. Steam mold is necessary for street-driven 400 small blocks. I don't know. I haven't had enough data given back to me about that. I just don't know. I don't know enough 400 guys that have done that. I just found a ring gap chart for my pistons and rings. Said 8 thousandths times 8 thousandths ring gap per inch of bore. That's 430 bores, so 32 to 33. Does that sound right? That will certainly mean that they will never touch. We ran ring gaps like that on the Big Bang motors. I don't think that much is necessary anymore. I would tend more towards like 6.5 per inch of bore. Have you even clearance Porsches for stroker cranks? It's usually the oil pump. Okay. I don't know that I've seen the bottom side or the open side of a 6-cylinder Porsche. I may have seen one at Osco, but I don't remember how the oil pump assembly is. It's nothing more than a stolen Windsor or Cleveland on a Cleveland deck height. Used to use matchbook covers to set the points. Yeah, that was big. That was common back in the day. I remember actually doing that on my my father-in-law had a boat. He had like a family boat, like a ski boat and fishing boat that had a Buick V6 in it that was that had a points distributor on it. I said, well, we didn't have a feeler gauge. So I said, I can't tell you that this is exact. I said, but this is an old school method and we did it and it seemed to run fine. Seam holes, why not if it's the Siamese block? Dan, what size strokers did you guys do on the Porsches? It's Richard's fault. He's the wizard behind the current. It's for a 350 shot of nitrous. Okay, yeah, I don't think you're gonna hurt anything by putting 8 thousandths per inch of bore. Like I said, we did that much on the 4.8 and 5.3. They had at least 30, and most of them had more like 30, 32, 35. My 2002 EMC Ford engine, I moved the cylinder bores 60 thousandths away from the intake valve, and no one ever found out what I did. Cool. Did you do something to the crank to move the piston over, or was there enough movement in the rod and the piston assembly? Some people blame the chicken tax for the downfall of light trucks. It was a tariff on imported light trucks. Is the chicken tax do they tax farmers that are like carrying chickens or something? Offset grinding was usually stickers and super stockers. I'm reluctant to put in extra ring gap because I broke a main bolt the very first one I tried to loosen in a perfectly good Vortec 350 to put rings and bearings because I had it out. Perfectly good. Oh, you broke the main bolt when you were disassembling it to put the ring gap in? Counterweight to the block next to the piston. Engine that I had to go bring to the machine shop. High miles, but ran perfect. Chicken tax is a term used to describe a 25% tariff that the United States imposed on importing light trucks in '64. This tariff was in response to European tariffs on American chicken exports. Oh, okay. I see. That's good stuff. That's why I come here. I come here to learn. Offset grind the crank to get zero deck for quench. They've been one-upping each other and copying each other for decades. So who cares? Richard has requested I email everyone with more details. With more details about what, Derek? What are you emailing? Tax was part of a broader trade between the U.S. and Europe. Yeah. Benchmarking is a part of engineering. That said, Ellis didn't copy, but there are only so many outcomes given design limitations. That's why mid-engine cars seem to look a lot alike. I agree. If you're trying to make a V8 and package it in the area where this V8 needs to go, I mean, there is only so much you can do. Big ring gap, big catch can, small ring gap, big trash can. Yeah, looks like we have a scammer. And you're done. Near. At one time or another, all foods have pretty much been currency and taxed, even salt. One of the most expensive things you could purchase. What's your opinion on steel main girdles? You have to check main clearances with them. Yeah, you should. That's another thing that you're changing. In my opinion, on anything that you've changed needs to be checked, because the thing that's going to cause a problem is the new thing. I piston guided the rods to line up with the bores again. I had 50,000 side clearance. Okay. Trying to just freshen it up. I want to put it in another vehicle. Have you ever clearanced a block or crank or rod on a stroker assembly? 53% are saying yes. Edward, you got a 2001 Ford Mustang. We road raced the car and we have seized connecting rods on 2 separate engine builds. This is oiling under high G. I would. Do you guys monitor oil pressure? Because after I lost the second engine, I would definitely have data logging on oil pressure, and then I would also at least think about an AccuSump kind of thing, but probably more likely a pan upgrade. Road racing is really hard on an oiling system. Racer D, that's Dave. That's pretty cool stuff. Mine wasn't nearly that tricky. That's why I'm not a cool engine builder guy. There. As far as I'm concerned, every manufacturer has made great vehicles. Some manufacturers have made absolutely ludicrous vehicles just for amusement. Competition between Germany and Japan and the US is great. And I would argue that, like, I loved reading, growing up, I loved reading Road and Track and Car and Driver and Motor Trend and all automobile and stuff. And I liked when they did shootouts. I like when they did top speed shootouts was my favorite thing because that's my jams. But also when they did comparisons, like they compared a Corvette to a Ferrari and to a twin turbo Nissan Z and the Dodge Stealth, the twin turbo deal, and all of those. And it's cool to see how they all made different cars a lot of times that achieve the same kind of performance or similar performance. And Porsche and everybody else. And to see, the differences in costs and handling, all of that stuff is really, really cool. And it makes everybody up their game, because when you see the guys go to, and we particularly saw this I like when they did the top speed shootouts for tuner cars, Hennessy and those guys, and how that escalated. And then we saw a dramatic escalation in the supercar stuff. So guys would do and that's why we have Bugattis and McLarens and things like that. Average sales price on a small Chevy short block. What about a long block? This one might be $360 due to 60 over in stock crank. Yeah, are you talking about going to get one from a wrecking yard? There are no plans for the V6, only the V8. Edward, what are you talking about? Try sumper baffles. Yeah, you can. You just have to solve the problem. So if the problem is that it's oil sloshing, sometimes baffles, sometimes windage tray, it just depends. Is the oil drain, back to the pan? Is that not good? Is that causing a problem? Is it getting stuck up in the heads or wherever? That's the thing. You need to address that. Watched an interesting video by Brian Stalter on how the rocker ratio change affects the changes to lift through the entire ramp of the cam at the valve. Yeah, it's good stuff. What direction should I put the rods? Eagle sign forward or the part number etching? I'm used to seeing a dot or an arrow. Are you doing a V8? If you're doing a V8, there should be a chamfer on one side of the rod, and that goes to the outside. The flat side of the rod, those go together. Just a junkyard builder follower. Thanks for all the great knowledge. Happy to help. Are steel main girdles on the 351 Windsor even worth it, or will they help strength? Debating on putting my probe steel girdle back on. I haven't done a lot of girdles on 351s. And do you need a specific pan when you do that girdle? I don't. I mean, it would depend on what you're trying to do with that motor. Are you trying to make a bajillion horsepower out of it? Like, what are you trying to get done here? I used to spend hours at the grocery store looking at all the car magazines until I didn't have any left to read, and then you leave. You just go there like you were going to the library. I remember finding out that the public library had copies of a lot of the car magazines, so I could go there and when I was young, I could go there instead of studying. I would go read Road and Track, Car and Driver, Motor Trend and stuff, and we would do it for free. But I loved going to the newsstands back when they had newsstands, and going, there was a specific one that you used to go to down in Newport Beach, which is always, we lived down there for quite a while, and going to that specific newsstand because we could get Hemmings Motor News, which is always good to look through, and you know, you kind of, it's like buying a lottery ticket. You're like, okay, if I win, I'm going to get this and this and this, and you could go through Hemmings and see all kinds of, you know, Ferraris and all kinds of cool stuff that was for sale. And you could go get weird magazines like Top Gear and like Race Car Engineering, which was really expensive. Trying to sell one that was overhauled in 2019 or 20. Oh, you're trying to sell a small block Chevy? Yeah, you just got to look online and see, you know, go on to eBay Motors. Oh, and put in, you know, a small block, short block or whatever for sale and see what the other ones are selling for. Specific pan, adding turbo, wanting around 600 horsepower. I wouldn't worry about it at 600 horsepower. A 351 Windsor will do 600 horsepower, like with ring gap. A stock bottom end will do 600 horsepower like all day long. I drive to Barnes and Noble every month to buy a lowrider magazine in the 90s. Yep. And it was kind of cool, and I didn't even realize it when we went in there. But my wife used to like to go to Barnes and Noble a lot, and so we would go in there, and every once in a while we would see some of my books there that were on sale. See, look, I am a big deal. She'd like to shake her head and go, "Yeah, no." Yeah, Dan, race car engineering is really good. I feel like I'm not even smart enough to read that, but you're right. I remember talking to my buddy Bernie, who is smart enough to read that, and I remember him saying, well, "Do you want to go in on a subscription to this?" I'm like, "What do you mean a subscription?" Because I was used to like Hot Rod Magazine. They'd basically give you a subscription for $4 and a free like wall clock or something. I'm like, how much could this possibly be? And they showed me. I'm like, oh yeah. So now I can see why. That's like a real thing. But man, they have serious tech in there. They got high tech. All the tech. My local pick apart engines are $2.99 for the month of October. I think I'll grab a spare 6-liter. Where are you at? Where are you at? Could you grab like 5 or 6 of them for me, and I'll just come get them? I put a 425 crank at a 400 Pontiac, and had to clearance one spot at the front of the block. Super easy. No car magazines at your school? What's the stock stroke in a Pontiac? I mean, I know that they have to be different, but like, what's a 455? 375 for the 326, 350, and 400. 4-inch for the 421 and 428, and 431 for the 455. So what did you put the 428 in, or the 4250 in? Did you put that in the like a 400 or something? You're in Wichita, Kansas. I just ordered an old Hollander mechanical interchangeable parts book. Oh, cool. I'd like a 301 stroker, please, with some 326 heads. Do you want the 301 like turbo motor stroker? 400 block makes it a 461 with a 30 overbore. I have a 400 block. Richard, can you give me a 4.6 with 500 horsepower after you're done with it? I can afford one, but you'll pay for shipping. A 500 horsepower 4.6 would be a boosted one. I would think that a rotating assembly manufacturer would have clearance checked it when they designed it. Yeah, you would hope, and most of them have. Tells you what fits what. Okay. Yeah, a 500 horsepower 4.6 would either be a I don't think we've only done that once. I think on a 2-valve, an NA one. But that was a 5-liter. Might have been a 5-liter stroker. On the 4-valve stuff, we've done that NA with cams and ported heads and stuff. I haven't even run a modular Ford in forever. Dragban, you're a Dodgers fan? I'll promote your channel every day for 2 months. I think I promote my channel every day anyways. My 98 464 valve cams makes 375. I'll take anything, but a non-turbo block wouldn't be as awesome. 265 301 shallow deck Pontiac windowed bulkheads are the problem. Are they? Is that block not as strong as the? Because I think that on the 301, the turbo ones, the later turbo Trans Ams, I don't think that those heads are very good, right? Are they a Siamese port or some? Are they something weird? Found out for sure that a 671 is too small for my 505 Pontiac. Yeah, it's 671s that we've run are about 1,000 horsepower. The turbo heads are Siamese ports. Siamese. What do I need for electronics on a 5.3 to run boost? I don't want to spend $2,000 on a Holley. Can I piggyback another module to the stock ECU? Is it worth it to go to a Holley system? You can run the stock computer and harness and everything. And get a free tune that will make all that work if you have the right size injector and stuff from Matt over at Sloppy. So that's the cheapest way to do it. If you have a vehicle that has the factory ECU and harness and stuff in it, you just use that. I've never tried one of his things, but he's run that don't BS me stuff a lot, and it just works. Because that's like what we were talking about. After you've done it a whole bunch of times, and it does the same thing every time, you're like, the next time we do this, it's probably going to do that. How can I contact you for consultation? You can ask questions right now. Well, let me know what you want to know, and we'll answer the questions. Do you know anywhere in San Bernardino area that does chassis dyno that can handle my 5,800-pound van? Some places won't test it. If you're in San Bernardino, can't you use Westech? All the shallow deck engines from 78 to 81 or 82. The Siamese Dream. 14% overdriven and doesn't make more than 2 pounds. Ran slower at the strip than one of my mild Ironhead NA 455 did. That seems odd. I mean, like I said, we've run 671s that made very, very close to 1,000 horsepower. I don't think that NA motor's making 1,000 horsepower, is it? That's what I'm trying to figure out, how to do the BS me stuff, but with low buck. Well, that is low buck. And Dylan, if you just ask questions, we'll answer them right now. You got, I'll answer what I can. You also got a lot of other guys too. Would they let my big heavy van there? Yeah, they run trophy trucks there, so your big heavy van isn't going to be heavier than a trophy truck. 8 feet wide, 9 feet tall. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem. Call there and talk to Eric. Sounds like the blower needs new seals or has a bad leak somewhere. NA between 700 and 750. Moves a lot of air of the blower, slowing it down. Yeah, we don't see that. I mean, we ran that 671 on a 540 that made 650, and it definitely made boost and brought it up to 930 or 940 or something like that. And we never spun it really, really fast. I mean, we could have spun it faster. What mod would you do to a Windsor apart from a manual swap? Yeah, are you talking about a 351? Looks seriously cool, I bet. You don't play with 462 valves anymore. I don't have any. I haven't had one for a really long time. And I don't even have any modular parts anymore that I know of. Arrived late. Okay, and then you got some conspiracies for me. 3 conspiracies. Diesel inventor of diesel engine designed it to run on various fuels and was killed. GM bought public transportation trolleys to shut them down and make people buy cars. Like in Roger Rabbit. Got a huge soft spot for those engines. My workmates in ultra-fast broadband had the 1981 Trans Am Turbo 301. I think those are really cool looking, and I like the little bars that light up. Mid 16-second car. Nice. Yeah, drag van. Let them know. Now I'm sure that they can hook you up. 2V versus 4V is like running a 4.8 when a 6.0 takes up the same space. The 4V is definitely wider than the 2V is. The dog's been on a whole bunch. Brady has been here a whole bunch. Brady and Bruno have been here a whole bunch. Matt Happel at Sloppy Mechanics. He gives off free tunes. How do I get in contact with him? Go search online for Sloppy Mechanics. 302 Windsor sedan. Sound good, healthy power, not heaps of money. A cheap turbo is a really good way. They need cams. Unfortunately, a 302, if it's carbureted, you're already like part of the way there, having a good intake manifold, a dual plane intake manifold. It needs heads. Put GT40 heads from the wrecking yard on it. all of that stuff. What flat tappet break-in oil do you recommend? I use anything that has a lot of zinc in it. And then when I do a flat tappet, I also put assembly lube on all of the lobes and then on the bottom of all the lifters. And I throw a zinc additive in there, just over zinc everything. And then when we break it in, I usually break it in with, if I'm running a dual spring on it, I'll just take out the inner springs and do a light spring thing and get that all acquainted. And then usually it's okay. Thumper, I can look and see what the pulley combinations were on that 540. Let's go to the tail of the tape here. Turbo 5.3 or 302. I loved that test. That's maybe one of my favorite small block Ford ones. It just went so well. Big block Chevy supercharger. 671. BPE 540 nitrous and 871 blower. So it made 940 at 11 pounds. And that was with, it was, I take that back. This was, never mind. This was an 871. Oh, no, it wasn't. This was a 671 because I remember I put the wrong thing in here because this is the same 671 that we ran on a bunch of stuff. So this was a 671 from the blower shop, but I think it might have been stripped. So it was a good one, but it was a 65 tooth crank pulley and a 48 tooth blower pulley. And it was that 540 crate motor, low compression, had that BR300 camshaft in it. It had ASCAST blueprint aluminum heads on it. We ran an NA with a Team G on it. And then with the blower, it had two 950s on it. I thought it was, I wanted it to be an 871, but it was not an 871. My jet boat has a 427 small block with a TBS 671, 670 horsepower, 7 pounds. Cool. Robert, this is my day job. This is what I do. Dylan, looking to make 500 wheel horsepower and my 997. Okay, I was going to say, good. We can ask Dan about the Porsche stuff, but it's just like boost. But 6.2, what combo would you suggest? Streetcar lapping a couple of times a year. So a 6.2, 500 wheel horsepower is going to be hard to do out of a 6.2 unless you do a stroker version of that. But doing an NA 6-liter that makes 500 wheel horsepower is like 600 flywheel horsepower. So it's possible, but a 6.2 with ported heads, you can do ported cathedral port heads or ported rec port heads. Either one of those works, like an Airflow Research set of ported rec port heads. You're probably going to have to do some kind of intake manifold that's going to give up low speed power. Otherwise, run the new performance design intake manifold is really good for that. And then you're going to need a camshaft. So look at a Brian 2-liter racing. You're going to need a decent camshaft to make that kind of power. So it's not going to be as drivable maybe as you want, but the Brian 2-liter racing stage 4 LS3 cam will definitely get you there. So that should help. Cam, M90 on a 302, any torque benefit below 4,000 RPM? Yes. Could I basically take everything from an 06 LQ4 and put it in something else with a no BS me tune? Yeah, but those tunes that he has are for turbo stuff. He might have stock stuff like that, if that's what you're talking about. Dean, let's see what your conspiracy theory was. Let's see. Ford 4-inch crank and a 4.0 crank and a 2.8 block, stock 2.8 rods, and Chrysler 3.7 pistons makes a 3.5. Cool. I've got a 3.3 going in a 98 Ombre. Just got a correct version this time. Racing oil pan and pickup looks nice. 4-bolt block, good. 78 F-150 400M C6. Should I mod the 400 or do a 460? The 460 will obviously make more power. And I think, honestly, there's probably more stuff for the 460 than there is for the 400. There's not a lot of intake manifolds for the 400. I got a conspiracy, Richard. Actually, Richard's actually Megamind. Ah, my giant blue head. Because that's the only way anybody could keep track of that much dyno data. Search high function Rada, Charlie Murphy. It wasn't me. It was just the messenger. Strip should make a difference. They will, but they don't take it from a 1,000 horsepower blower down to a 700 horsepower blower. Strips don't make that much of a difference. If I see anyone is selling their old upgraded cams and cylinder heads for the 302, so you make your living from YouTube, yes. What would be the best way forward to learn how to tune my Mustang myself? There's a lot of information online about how to tune. So I don't know what platform you're thinking about using, HP Tuners or Holly or whatever, but there are avenues online. Horsepower Academy is a really good one for you to go in and learn. The best way to do it is to do it. 3.5 Powerdyne UK clone stroker 3.5 liter was 100% true. Okay. I guess an LS swap could be a solution too. T56 bolts up without an adapter. Yep. Why buy the V8 version of the car? That's even better. I want to put a turbo LQ4 into a project car. That's always a good answer. Dan wants you to not put a 6.2 in a 997. He wants you to sell it and buy a 997 turbo. And then you could make 1,500 horsepower. Making 1,500 horsepower from a 997 turbo would be really expensive. I have a problem with my van. If I get it to run faster than 729 in the 8th, I have to install a roll bar. Went to a place that builds them. They said no way they would do it with the beds. Wait, there's a conspiracy theory. I want to hear it. The small bore long stroke equals more torque than big bore small stroke. That is. And if you flip your pistons, you gain power. Steve Morris set up a vintage Hillborn fuel injection, return pill, intermediate circuit, adjustable, and high-speed lean-out circuit. Made 803 horsepower small block Chevy on methanol. That's cool. He knows how to make power. 351 Windsor. I was running an X303, 8 to 10 PSI. I should change it to make 600 horsepower. It should be fine. That cam in a 351... assuming that you have, what cylinder heads do you have? If you have stock heads, that's going to be hard. But if you have decent heads on it, 600 horsepower should not be fine at all. In fact, I would argue that, we did over 600 horsepower at that boost level when we put the Edelbrock stuff on. So Edelbrock heads and cam and intake manifold, and then a blower on it at 10 pounds. It was like 650 or something. Robert, happy to help. Bought it with a blown mower, so no. And also, I don't have 100 grand to make 1,500 horsepower. With Porsche stuff, it would not be cheap. Yes, Dean, you guys have been very helpful making me famous. $64.65 bottom and 48 top. I think that was all the pulley that we had available. I think that was the most spin that we could get out of it. Because I think that was the biggest crank pulley that we had and the smallest blower pulley. Goat Rope Garage, also, I keep forgetting about those guys, and they're so nice. That also a good place to find out about tuning. Have you seen the adapters DJ Tuning is making for Hellcat Supercharged on the LS? Yeah, I think that we might be doing something together to test one on the dyno. Tuning 101, know what every sensor does and understand how the ECU uses the information. Got my Earls and Aeroquip plumbing. Good. I want to see. Send me some pictures. Make sure that you do. BNR, let me know when you get all that plumbed up. I want to see it. Somebody used to make aluminum spacers to install Cleveland intakes on the high deck 351 blocks. Yeah, if you look at my videos I have up on the 400M, we use those. The guys from MPG made mine, and we were able to use Cleveland intakes, including the RPM air gap, but also some others. I think I tried and it didn't work very well, I think, if I remember right. I think I tried the funnel web, which I like the funnel web for the Windsor stuff, but this one didn't seem to work as well. None of us is as clever as all of YS. My poll shows I'm the weakest link. I don't think that's the case. I think I posted a video that mathematically explains why that's not true in the 305 versus the 302 video that you did. What, the rod ratio stuff? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, AFR 205 heads. Yeah, you definitely have enough cylinder head. With that cylinder head and that camshaft, assuming you have some kind of intake manifold on it, like a dual plane or something, 600 horsepower should be easy with some kind of blower on there. I might get a 43 top to go with my 55. That's 27%. Thumper, I have a bunch of pulleys that I need to get rid of. So if you're interested, let me know. Dylan, you're going to do pistons anyway, since the motor I have is pretty high mileage. What's the highest compression without sacrificing timing, would you say? We have 94 here and no E85. I don't think I would go any higher than stock. I mean, you're going to be running somewhere between 10 and 11 to 1. Shrouds decide who's going to stay and who's going to go. Okay, I'm good with that. Agreements weren't made to maximize profits, pause innovation, and reduce durability. That's one of the conspiracy theories. I think I have a sickness that makes me keep buying Ford Falcons and modifying them. That's good. I dug up the original 454 Gen 6 regulator. It's the same part number as an LS. I measured the stock center tube return line. It wouldn't surprise me that they would try to source that stuff and use it. You know, it's how many are they making and how much can they save? And if it's working and it already, you know, if they've already tested it and it's working really well, I don't know why they wouldn't keep using that. Getaway. The truck plus cam is a 219, 225. Would you consider a Godzilla swap and an SN95 because of the lower RPM and compression? Leave them for a truck? No, I think a Godzilla can make lots of power. I mean, it would be a big step up in an SN95 from a stock motor. Oh, and the bore versus stroke argument? Okay. I think for the range that we're talking about, that's not really an arguable thing, other than, like we talked about, the fact that the small bore, not because small bores can't make power, but because small bores limit the number of cylinder heads that you have available. But if we can put cylinder heads on either one of those that support enough flow, or that have enough flow to support 600 horsepower, then we're wasting our time arguing about bore and stroke ratio. Because, you know, if we're making 400 horsepower from our motor, and we have we have cylinder heads that can make 600, we're not even using what's everything that's there. Are you ever going to do a 454 Big Bang? We already did one, kind of, but I haven't gone, I don't think, all the way with one. It's a 95 Coyote would be better. On a stock, 351.95. If you advance the cam and add 1.7 rockers, will you have a clearance issue? I don't think you'll have a piston to valve clearance issue. That's such a tiny cam in there. I don't think you have to worry about that. But I don't know that advancing the cam is going to show you any power. A rocker change can add a little bit, but not a lot. Yes, Coyote, but Godzillas are 7,000 complete. Yeah, that's not something that I would consider. That's similar to a cam I had in my last project, an 8720 Summit, 218, 227. Yeah, that should be comparable, I would guess. Yeah, neither the Coyote nor the Godzilla have a great deal of aftermarket support, at least not compared to LS stuff or small block Chevy or small block Ford stuff. Also, I pull from the salvage, so I'm not spending 7,000. Can you find Coyotes or Godzilla motors in the wrecking yard? Because I wouldn't think that you'd be able to. So we're going to close out our poll, and we got 1 more minute. Have you ever clearanced a block or crank or rod assembly? 52% are saying no. So we've gotten more saying no now. So we're going to end our poll there. Truck Plus cam is good. Yeah, the Truck Plus cam has worked good. I mean, it makes more power than the low buck truck does, but and as I've seen, at least if sales are any indication, that and maybe I don't promote the Truck Plus cam nearly as much, but we'll start doing that more. But it makes more peak power, and certainly above 5,000, it's better. But I think it's because most of the people are much more interested in what's happening below 5,000, and so they want that, and that's what the low buck truck gives them. But either one of those cams, like particularly with a turbo or a blower or something, they work really well. Truck 5.0s are out there, but not as plentiful as LSs. Oh, truck 5-liter Coyote things. Okay, what does a plus mean in the LSA cams? It means that if it's plus 3 or 5 or 2 or whatever, it means that they've changed the intake center line. SN95s have bolting K members for LSs. Yeah, I would think that they would. Would think that would be popular. I myself don't like the SN95 nearly as much as I like the Fox stuff, but that shouldn't be surprising since I'm a Fox guy. I'm a Fox owner, so that's why. And I feel that way about like some of the Corvette stuff, like too. I don't like the C7 and C8 as much as I like the C6. I like the SN95 Celine. Yeah, with the big wings on them and stuff. Those were kind of cool because I raced with Bondurant and Tim Allen and those guys in World Challenge when that car came into being. I was racing a Fox. So what's the significance of changing the intake center line? You're changing the opening and or closing events relative to piston position. Basically, you're just changing valve events. And on that note, it is time to go. But I will be back tomorrow. I was hoping my dog was going to come up and see me. Hoping the puppies.